Hey guys, I'm Vince LaPeltier, and today I'm going over the latest 3 versions of the CDJ. The CDJ2K Nexus, the Nexus 2, and the CDJ3000. I'm going to go over some of the key differences that I see with these players, mainly with the screen and the visibility of the music, what the waveform looks like, the navigation through the programs in each one, and the difference with the hotkeys, because they're very different from each generation. So the first thing I want to look at is functionality and how these players play together. So the oldest version will connect with all the other versions. However, there are limitations in the ProLink. So I've got connected 2 CDJ3000s and these 2 older players. So I've got USBs in both the 3000 and the 2000, and everything's linked, including a player to the right. First thing I want to go over is functionality and how these players play together in case you're trying to mix and match older generations with newer ones, because it does affect the ProLink and how the songs are played on the tracks. One key difference that I noticed is that there's like a compatibility issue where if I play music from a CDJ3000 with the oldest version, the waveform doesn't show up. So let me show you what I mean by that. I've got a USB stick in the Nexus 2 and in the CDJ3000, and they're linked up. So if I go to link on here, I can pick which one to link from. If I link from CDJ3, which is this one, and I play a song, the song will play, but notice no waveform shows up. If I pick a track from player 2, and try to pick one of my own tracks, so we don't have copyright issues. If I play this track, now you can see that the waveform does show up. So I hope this is something Pioneer fixes in the future. I don't think they are updating. They haven't updated firmware in a while on this version, but they really should update it so that you can still link this older version with this and still see the waveform. While we're talking about waveforms, that's another difference on this one is you only have the option for this blue waveform with this version. On this player, you can do a blue waveform or the RGB, which is my preference. On this third one, they've added an additional 3-band, so you can do the blue, the RGB, or the 3-band, which shows high, mid, and low frequencies in 3 colors. I like to have all the colors though, it's just a personal preference. Okay, so next let's dive into what the waveforms look like when you're all linked up. So over here, I'm gonna play a track. So I've got Fantastique playing over here, and let's say I want to mix Tiptoe. So on here, I've got different options for what I want to see. I can see this older version, or I can now see, as long as the master player is a CDJ3000, I have the option to also see the waveform of the other track. So that's really cool. It's very similar to a controller where you can see both waveforms really in front of you. I think that's really one of the best features of this player. Here, if you're playing a track on this one, you do have 2 options. You can see this way, or you can see the old way, and you can look at that in your shortcut. That says type 2, and then there's type 1. Type 1 is just the blinking 4-bar loop. I like this one. I like type 2 better than type 1 because it gives you a little more accuracy. On the third one, you only have type 1. That's your only option for what you see there. So, big improvement with the CDJ3000 is your ability to see 2 waveforms. Of course, it only works with 3000s. together, as far as I know. It won't work with older generations. Next, I'd like to go over hot cues. It's very visible that there's a difference between them. You can see there's 3 hot cues here on the oldest version, 2 banks of 4 here. You can actually swap between the 2. So it gives you 8 total, and here you've got 8 lined up with the music, and it's lined up kind of nicely here. But there's also some key differences to know about the hot cues here as well. So if you have more than 3 hot cues in rekordbox, only 3 are ever going to show up with the oldest generation. With the next generation, up to 8 will show up, and then of course on this one, all 8 will show up. Here you just have to toggle through them. Now, this is one interesting thing I'd like to show you, and it's actually, it can be very dangerous, but it could also be very useful. You can use a CDJ as a sampler and pull in up to 8 tracks immediately, just using hot cues. And I'm thinking of doing another video just on that as well, because I think it could make for an interesting set. But have you guys ever ran into an issue where you're playing one track, like on this CDJ, and then you hit a hot cue and all of a sudden another track is playing, like out of nowhere? That's happened to me before in a gig, and it's not fun, and it's really hard to fix after that. What that is a setting called, okay, so that's in the settings, and it's the hot cue auto load setting. If you have hot cue auto load on, whenever you play a new track, all your cue points will automatically load. But if you don't have that on, you'll actually keep some of the cue points that stay on there can be from previous songs that were loaded. If you hit one of those cue points, you're going to go back to that other cue point in that other song instantly. You can actually decide what settings you want in rekordbox, and that's what this button is for. So if you have those settings and you load them in, you can have this feature if you want it. So let me just show you what that feature can be like. Let me go back to those settings. It's in the shortcut. If I go to hot cue off, now if I pick a song, auto load is off. We need to go to a different song. Okay, so if I go to this different song, notice none of the cue points changed. Now to load the cue points for this song, if I hit these, I'm going to play that last song. But I want to load some cue points here, so I'm going to hit this. Now they load. Okay, so I'm going to take this A cue point here on this track. Okay, but now I'm going to go back and pick a different track. It's like coffee. Now I'm going to take this one here. Now see, I went back to that other track, because first you have to load it. So let's go back to browse. Now I have to go back to find it. Okay, what we wanted was coffee. Okay, so the track is loaded, but the cue points didn't load. Now if I want to load, let's say C from here, I have to hit this button first. Now it'll show cue points from this song. I'll take C from that one. I won't take the others. Let's load another track. So take this acapella. Got lots of cue points here. I'll take B from here. You can see B is a loop. Just take that. Okay. Now I have instantly 3 different tracks I can recall. Hold on. You gotta be off of this version. Yeah, the lights can't be blinking, otherwise you're adding a cue point. As you can see, it's very confusing, and I wouldn't recommend doing this unless you're really sure about what you're doing. Let's take Fire at Will. We'll take this cue point A. Okay. So, in here now, this track is Fire at Will. A is Fire at Will. B is Hold Up. and C is copy.
That's bad.
And as you can see, it's instant. It instantly plays that track and it's recalled. It doesn't have to take time to load or anything. The waveform will take some longer time to load, but it's instant. So if you remember what all those cue points were, and then you can use this as a sampler and instantly pull 8 different tracks from one CDJ. And you can do the same thing on this one too. You just go, if you're in the shortcut mode, and you have your settings on off for hot cue load, and you load a track, it's the same thing. So go to playlist, and yeah, see, you hit that button, and now you can choose to load cue points if you want them. And then so now I've loaded this one, and I can go to a different song, and I can load, this. I can hit this button first, and then I can load this one here. And now I've got 2 tracks I can pull up instantly. I can do that, or I can do that. Instant. So, it's a cool little trick. There's no way to do that with the old version. As I said here, you only have 3 hot cue points. They're not interchangeable. And I've even gone in and changed the settings on the USB so that it wouldn't auto load, but it makes no difference on the older player. It just doesn't have that function. So next, let's move on to the navigation through the players. There is a big difference with how these players navigate. Obviously, this screen is obviously much smaller than this one, and this one gets a little bit bigger. This screen is also not a touch screen, so you have to do everything with the wheel. If you're going into browse, if you go into search, which I never use the search function on here. I'm going to see if I can even do it. I guess it'd be like, okay, browse. I'm in one of these USBs. Okay, so there's got to be search. Okay, so if I go to search, you have to like type with this little touch bar to find a track and load it. So it's much simpler here. And there's what I really like is the shortcuts here, where I can just search for something. And once I'm in search, I can type the track I want, like say "Time to Fly." Pulls up immediately. So, and then over here, the search function is it's even easier. There's one button at the top. You just hit search, and you can clear it and type track you want. It'll play. So a tip that I really like to use when I'm using different kinds of players, especially if I'm using like an older version like this, is I will use tag lists all the time. So if I find a track that I want to play, and I want to play it on a different player, I'll just hit tag to tag it, and it'll show up in the tag list. And then here, because I'm using two different flash drives, if you hit tag list on any of the players, you got to pick. And if you're using the link mode, you got to pick which one you want to pull it from. So in this case, I just put it on USB 2, and then I actually must have old tags from before. Plus, there's the track there. Tag lists are really useful for that, and they work on all the players. But yeah, the searching for different tracks is way easier on this, and it gets even easier on this one. One thing that I use all the time is the track filter, because I like to mix in key and BPM, and that's actually one thing where the version 2 player really shines. That I find actually a little bit more functional than the newest player. Over here on the right, I've still got Fantastique playing, and so I want a song that's going to match that. I can, with just 3 buttons, I can hit shortcut, track, filter, and all of these should match that one. If I hold filter, it goes into how it's working. I've got it filtering off the master player on BPM and key. BPM plus or minus 6, and the key of the master player. And you can adjust all those things for the filter. Now the filter is something that's on the latest 2 versions. It's not on this older version. And I use it all the time, ever since I found out about it on this one. So, but you saw that was just, so with just 3 buttons, I'm looking at the whole library of the USB that I'm on, which has like, I think 3,000 tracks, because I'm on USB. Yeah, and with 3 buttons, search, track, filter. I've narrowed it down to 289 that match, and now I can go through and just start tagging ones that I want to play, and then I can go and play them off of different players, and they're right there in the tag list. So it's really fast. So that was 3 buttons to get to the filter. Over here, if I want to get to the filter, so let's go off the older USB. So if you go into source, pick the USB. So we're going to go off the same USB. Okay. Browser. So 1 button, 2, and then it can't be blue like this. If I hit this filter, it does nothing. I'm still looking at 3,000 tracks. It has to be gray like that. Then I hit filter. Now the 289 show up. So it's an extra button I have to hit. And not only is it's not even a button, it's a touch button, and it has to go from blue to gray. So it's definitely taking some getting used to, and it's definitely another step. So that's one area where this actually became less fast for my workflow for picking different tracks. And I'm still a lot more comfortable with this to do that. Of course, there's a lot more other things you can do on here. But here's actually another downside I've found with the newest version. And if anyone has found a way to do this, let me know. I don't know of a way to change the rating of a song on the newest player. On this player, and I do this all the time where I'll just be going through tracks and playing tracks, and I'll just hit info. I can go down to the stars. I can say if I really like that song, I can rank it right here. And that information is now stored on the drive, and when I go into export mode in Rekordbox, I can send all that information back, so it'll update my Rekordbox collection with those stars, with the ranking I gave it. Here, if I'm on a track, browser, track, okay, so I've loaded this track here. To go, there's no info button, you have to actually you just touch the screen here. It shows up, but I have no way to change this. So, I mean, this seems like a big oversight if there's not a way to do this. Maybe it'll be in a firmware update, or maybe there is a way. So if you know, please let me know. But that's one thing I'm missing on the new player. Okay, but yeah, as you can see, there's just a lot more stuff you can access here with a bigger screen. But it really feels a lot more like a controller and a computer. But some of the key things that I'm really comfortable with on here are not there, and those are the 2. I mean, one thing that they added, which I guess is kind of nice on this one, is that if you really want to play from a playlist, you got a quick button to do it. You just hit playlist. But here, I just use the shortcut button all the time. You hit shortcut and you got playlist right there. So that's pretty fast too. Here the shortcut button is just not all that helpful because they put so many buttons here. See, when I go to shortcut here, I don't have playlists or matching. That's another thing. If you use matching a lot, which I've started to use more and more since I found out about it, matching will let you play a track, and then just, if you've gone in Rekordbox and matched it, it'll just show the tracks that are matching that player. So you just pick the player, so player 1 is playing this, and you can see that this track, I've already put it in Rekordbox as matching that. The other ones I don't have any. So then you can just play a track that matches. If you want to use matching on this one, you don't find it in the shortcut, but you have to go to browse, and then it's one of these tabs. So there it goes, shows up. I really like what shows up in the shortcuts here as far as matching, search. But yeah, playlists. I guess it is nice to be able to just hit playlists. I guess a lot of DJs play off playlists, and so they're able to do that. I use playlists some. I mean, playlists are really like the only way to go with the older version, because you can't do any of those searching functions or filter functions, and it's great for just playing tracks off a list. But I really like to go to all my tracks and then just start filtering through to pick new tracks. And for doing that, actually, so far this is still the fastest way to do that. One of the biggest differences with the players and the nicest difference is this jog wheel. It's very, very smooth. The others make a little more noise. They don't spin quite as fast. They're not as smooth, so the redesign is really nice. And of course there's added features like key sync, which did not exist on the older ones. This back. I'm not really going to get into key sync. I just don't use it that much. But yeah, those are some of the key differences that I've noticed between the three players, and I thought some of this might be helpful for other DJs out there that might be wondering, what player to buy if you're going to be buying a used player. You can probably get some good deals buying used players. I'm actually selling 2 Nexus 2s in very good condition. If you would be interested, you can hit me up. But yeah, if you're going to get a brand new player, I mean, as long as you're not using CDs, because this one doesn't have the CDs anymore, it makes sense to get this one because you're just getting a lot more with the screen and everything for almost the same price, barely any more than this one. But if you're getting a used player, this one is still a workhorse and is actually my favorite player. I'm most comfortable with using it for some of those things I've outlined. And then here, yeah, you're much more limited on this older version. But if you're just playing off playlists and you don't use too many cue points, you really can still do just about everything on here. I really like to be able to mix and match players because then if you have one that is better for searching, you can just use that one, like a newer version, put everything on a tag list, and those will still show up in your tag list on older players too. So that's kind of a workaround to be able to have that same functionality with older players. You just have to make sure that they link up right. And so some of those key issues with linking are something I've showed you here. So just wanted you guys to be aware of some of those things. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm Vince LaPeltier, and keep it groovy, man. Still figuring out a catchphrase here, but keep it groovy, guys.